I think Kuminga is different than any player Steve Kerr has ever coached.
Just got to keep going, just like everybody else who's in this position. And it happens to everybody, pretty much, other than the stars. Guys come in and out of the rotation depending on, who's available, how the team's playing.
It's December 8th, 2025. The Golden State Warriors are playing the Chicago Bulls. Steph Curry is out. Draymond Green is out. Al Horford is out. Three of your most important players are sitting in street clothes. So you would think that this is the perfect opportunity for your $23 million man to step up, to prove that he belongs, to show everyone what he's capable of when he finally gets the keys to the car. But no. Instead, Jonathan Kuminga is sitting at the end of that bench, not playing a single minute. And I'm not talking about an injury. I'm not talking about foul trouble. I'm talking about Steve Kerr looking at his roster and deciding that Gui Santos, the 55th pick from 2 years ago, deserves to play over the 7th overall pick from 2021. And the craziest part about this is the Warriors still won this game by 32 points without him. What I'm about to tell you is how we got here, everything that brought us to this point, including the contract standoff and potential trade rumors and what his own agent said publicly. And where Jonathan Kuminga might get traded, it's way crazier than you think. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why January 15th is circled on every NBA fan's calendar. Before we get to the content, we are still running jersey giveaways on this channel. All you have to do to enter is subscribe, turn on my notifications for this channel, and just let me know in the comment section down below what jersey you'd like. Running the same exact giveaway on Instagram. You just have to follow me on Instagram and turn on my notifications there. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Today we gotta have a real conversation about what's going down in Golden State, because this Jonathan Kuminga situation didn't get resolved with a contract extension. It's not just bad, it's not just messy, it's officially reached a level where all NBA fans are wondering what the hell are the Golden State Warriors doing. We're gonna break down everything: the summer standoff that poisoned this relationship from the jump, the honeymoon phase that lasted about 5 minutes, the moment the veterans called him out publicly, the DNP that blew everything up, and most importantly, where Jonathan Kuminga could end up getting traded, including whether a deal with the Sacramento Kings for Domantas Sabonis actually makes sense. Okay, so to really understand how we got to the point where a $23 million player is getting DNPs, we gotta go back to this past summer, because that's when everything went sideways. Jonathan Kuminga was a restricted free agent, which basically means that the Warriors had all the power. They could match any offer another team made. They had his bird rights, and on paper, this should have been the easiest negotiation in the world. Young player that was drafted by the team a few years ago with a top 10 pick who just proved himself in the playoffs. You signed the extension, everybody's happy, and let's go try to make the most of Steph Curry's final years as an impact player for the Warriors. But nothing with Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors has ever been simple, and I mean nothing. According to ESPN, the contract standoff dragged all the way from July into the start of training camp in late September. We're talking months of back and forth while other restricted free agents were getting their bags. Josh Giddey signed 4 years and $100 million with Chicago. Cam Thomas took the qualifying offer in Brooklyn. Deals were getting done left and right, but Jonathan Kuminga? Radio silence. So what was the holdup? Well, here's what was really going down behind closed doors. Kuminga wanted one thing above everything else: a player option. He wanted the ability to bet on himself, ball out for a year or two, then hit free agency again and get the max contract he believes he deserves. That's it. That's what he was fighting for. The Warriors, they wanted the exact opposite. They wanted a team option. They wanted the control, the flexibility to keep him if he pans out or trade him if he doesn't, and neither side was willing to budge for months. Now, here's where it gets interesting. ESPN reported that the Warriors put 3 different contract offers on the table. The first one was 3 years and $75 million with a team option on the 3rd year. The second was 2 years, $45 million, and the third was 3 years and $54 million, fully guaranteed, but no options at all. Kuminga looked at all 3 of those offers and said, Yeah, I'm not really interested in any of these. He wasn't signing anything without the player option, and while all this was happening, other teams are calling. The Phoenix Suns came through with a sign and trade offer, 4 years, $99 million with a player option. That's exactly what Kuminga wanted. That's the control he'd been fighting for all summer long. But Golden State said no, they declined. The Sacramento Kings also made a run at him. They offered Malik Monk and a lottery protected first round pick. Golden State said no to that too. They didn't want Royce O'Neal and second rounders from Phoenix. They didn't want Malik Monk and a protected pick from Sacramento. They kept saying no because they wanted more. But here's the thing, and remember this because this becomes important later. Those teams that showed interest in the summer, their situations have changed dramatically since then. And keep that in the back of your mind. So what finally happened? With the qualifying offer deadline approaching, Jonathan Kuminga blinked first. He signed a 2-year, $46.8 million deal with a team option on the second year. He's making $22.5 million this season, and the Warriors have a $24.3 million team option for next year. Kuminga got more money than the qualifying offer would have paid him, but he didn't get the player option he wanted. The Warriors got their flexibility, but they had to pay up to get it. And here's the detail that tells you everything about where this relationship stands. According to Shams, both sides went into the deal with the understanding that trade talks would resume when Kuminga becomes eligible to be moved on January 15th. This is not speculation. This is not reading between the lines. That was literally the understanding going in. Sign this deal so we can trade you later. ESPN described the contract as more of a trade asset than a commitment to a partnership. And honestly, that might be the most accurate description of this entire situation that I've ever heard. But wait, it gets worse. ESPN's Anthony Slater reported that the months of negotiations generated bitter feelings on both sides. Kuminga felt like he was forced into accepting the offer, and the Warriors were frustrated that it took this long. And those bitter feelings, they didn't just disappear when he signed on the dotted line. They followed him right into the season. Now here's the thing, despite everything that went down in the summer, there was a brief moment where it looked like maybe this was all gonna work out. Like maybe both sides could put the drama between them and just hoop. Jimmy Butler actually reached out to Kuminga during the contract standoff, saying, "I love him. I know he has fans, but I'm his number one because he has all the tools to be great. Somebody just needs to show him how to utilize these tools." And Butler wasn't just talking, he made it a point throughout training camp to pull Kuminga aside and work with him on the little things, the nuances, the stuff that separates good players from great ones. They started hanging out off the court. Kuminga was buying in. He even told Kerr in one of their more productive conversations that he'd been working with Jimmy on his spacing, learning how to play off the ball, learning how to fit in. And you know what? It actually showed on the court. Kerr gave Kuminga the starting power forward spot on opening night. In October, this man was cooking. We're talking 17.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shooting 55.4% from the field and 45% from three. The Warriors started 4-1. Kerr was praising him in the media. Everyone was patting themselves on the back like, see?
The drama is over. This is gonna work.
Kerr himself admitted that he had doubts going in. He told ESPN that lineup combinations with Kuminga, Butler, and Draymond Green were minus 36 and 105 minutes together last season. Those three on the court at the same time was a disaster. But Kerr said, and I quote, "I wasn't convinced until I was convinced." Even opening night didn't look good in the first half. For about 2 weeks, everything was beautiful. Kuminga was playing his role, the team was winning, the vibes were good, and then reality showed up. Steph Curry got sick and missed 3 games. The offense completely fell apart without him. When Curry came back for the Oklahoma City game, he was rusty. He played 20 minutes but couldn't find his rhythm. And the Thunder, the defending champs, absolutely demolished the Warriors. Kuminga had 5 of the team's 21 turnovers in that game. 5 in a blowout loss. And that's when the honeymoon officially ended, because what happened next was the veterans decided it was time to send a message. After that blowout loss to OKC, Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler went to the media and they weren't holding back. And look, they didn't say names directly because that's just not how veterans operate, but what they said, everybody knew exactly who they were talking about. Draymond told reporters, "I think everybody was committed to winning and doing that any way possible. Right now, it doesn't feel that way." Think about what he's saying here. At the start of the season, everyone was locked in. Everyone was doing the right things, but now something changed. Someone stopped buying in. Butler Butler was asked about Draymond's comments, and he said Green was partly correct, which is Butler saying,
Yeah, he's right, but I'm too smart to say exactly what I'm thinking on camera.
but you want to know who wasn't too smart to say exactly what he was thinking? Warriors insider Monty Poole. He went on 95.7 FM in the Bay Area and just put it all out there. He said everyone wants to identify Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski as the two guys that Draymond was referring to. And then Poole really let it fly. He said when you connect the dots, how can you not end up at Kuminga's doorstep? One, Kuminga gets his money, and he knows in the back of his mind that the Warriors are going to try and trade him because they've done it before. Let that sink in. Kuminga knows. He knows the Warriors tried to trade him over the summer. He knows they're probably going to try again, and according to Poole, that knowledge is affecting how he's playing. Poole finished it by saying that the vets know they need support, good support, consistent support, and they're not getting it. Now, after those comments came out, Kerr made some moves. Kuminga got pulled from the starting lineup after 13 games. Then he got hit with bilateral knee tendonitis and missed 7 games. When he finally came back, everything was different. His shot wasn't falling, his confidence was shaky, and according to ESPN's Anthony Slater, since returning from that injury, Kuminga has shot just 12 of 40 from the field. That's 30% for a guy making $23 million on a team that's supposed to be competing for a championship. But somehow it was about to get even worse, because remember that DNP I told you about in the beginning of this video? We haven't even gotten to the details of that yet, and trust me, you're gonna want to hear what Steve Kerr said afterwards. Alright, so let me set the stage for you real quick. On December 7, 2025, the Golden State Warriors are playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kuminga is back from injury, trying to find his footing again, and he goes out there and shoots 1 of 10 in 22 minutes. 1 for 10 in a game that the Warriors lost by 1 point. But here's the thing, Kerr didn't just let him play through it. When the fourth quarter started, when the game was on the line, Kerr benched him, choosing to play Santos instead. And according to Slater's reporting, Draymond Green was seen on the bench talking to Kuminga late in the game, trying to calm him down because Kuminga was visibly frustrated about being pulled in crunch time. So what does Kerr do the very next night against the Bulls? He doesn't just bench Kuminga for the fourth quarter, he doesn't play him at all. DNP, coach's decision. 0 minutes in a game where Curry, Draymond, and Horford were all out. A game where you would think logically that your $23 million investment would at least get some run, and the Warriors won by 32 without him. After the game, the media asked Kerr about it, and his response? This is where it gets real. Kerr said,
Just got to keep going, just like everybody else who's in this position. And it happens to everybody, pretty much, other than the stars. Guys come in and out of the rotation depending on, who's available, how the team's playing.
Did you catch that? Other than the stars? Kerr just basically told the whole world that Jonathan Kuminga is not a star, that he's not one of the untouchables, that on any given night, a second round pick can take his spot if Kerr thinks the team is playing better without him. Now, Jonathan Kuminga's agent, Aaron Turner, went on Twitter and posted, "What are we doing out here?" That's Kuminga's own agent, publicly questioning the organization on social media for everyone to see. That's how bad things have gotten. Now, to his credit, Kuminga has said all the right things after the Bulls DNP. He told reporters, at the end of the day, I've just got to be a professional, because things happen, and it's happened before, and it's happening now. Nothing is going to change certain things, but just staying positive. He said he and Kerr have a good relationship, but not everybody is buying it. Mercury News columnist Dieter Kurtenbach wrote a piece that absolutely went in on this situation. He said Kerr handed Kuminga a permanent starting job on a silver platter after the forward showed a modicum of buy-in to start the season. He praised the athleticism, he lauded the professionalism, he gave Kuminga all the external validation that he could handle for doing the right thing for like a week. And how did Kuminga respond? By rolling his eyes and promptly reverting to his factory settings, which is me first basketball. And Kurtenbach didn't stop there. He called the benching not just tactical, it was punitive. Punitive as in punishment. Kerr benched his $23 million fourth-year player as punishment for not playing the right way. So where does this leave us? Well, a trade is certainly coming. That's not speculation at this point. That's practically a guarantee. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, the probability of Kuminga being moved before the February 5th trade deadline is strong. The Warriors are actively planning to explore trade offers, and that January 15th date that I mentioned earlier, that's when Kuminga becomes eligible to be moved. 5 weeks from now. Mark your calendars. Alright, so let's talk about the fun part. Where could Jonathan Kuminga actually end up? Because there are some really interesting options on the table. First up is the Sacramento Kings. Now, remember when I told you earlier that the Kings made a run at Kuminga over the summer with Malik Monk in a first-round pick? Well, their interest hasn't gone away. The Kings still are interested in landing Kuminga. But here's the thing. Remember when I said that their situation had changed? Sacramento is 6-18 right now. They're a complete disaster. And according to Shams, the Kings have realized it's time to pivot away from their current roster. All the big names are on the table. Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, everyone. So now we're talking about something bigger. What if the Warriors could flip Kuminga to Sacramento as part of a package for Sabonis? Bleacher Report's Zach Buckley actually proposed this exact trade. The Kings would send Sabonis to Golden State for Kuminga, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, Trace Jackson Davis, and a 2028 first-round pick. Think about what this would mean for the Warriors. Sabonis is a 3-time All-Star. He averages damn near a triple-double. He's exactly the type of center they've been lacking since the dynasty days. You put Sabonis next to Curry, Butler, and Draymond, that's a legitimate championship contender. For Sacramento, they'd be getting multiple young players to rebuild around. Kuminga could be featured there. He'd have room to grow. He'd be out of Steve Kerr's system that clearly doesn't work for him. And there's actually a report from Sports Illustrated that says Kuminga really wants to play for the Sacramento Kings. So the interest is mutual, but there's a catch. Sam Amick reported that Sabonis' camp doesn't anticipate him being moved at the deadline. They're preaching patience, so this might be more of an off-season thing than a deadline deal. The next option is the Indiana Pacers, and this one is sneaky interesting. Brett Siegel of Clutch Points reported that the Pacers have been quietly scouting Kuminga dating back to the start of the 2024-25 season. They've had their eye on him for over a year now, and the deal that's been floated, Kuminga to Indiana for a package centered around Benedict Mathurin. Mathurin and Obi Toppin would likely be needed to match Kuminga's salary, and honestly, this trade makes sense for both sides. Mathurin is athletic, he can score, and he'd fit better next to Curry and Butler than Kuminga has. He's already shown that he can accept a secondary role. Meanwhile, Kuminga would go to Indiana where they play fast, they need a scoring punch, and he could potentially be featured. And here's a fun piece of history. Mark Stein reported that back in 2022, the Pacers were huge fans of Kuminga when Golden State was chasing Domantas Sabonis before he got traded to Sacramento. There were discussions between the two front offices about packages involving Kuminga, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, and Sabonis. So this connection goes way back. There's also the New Orleans Pelicans, who according to Siegel, the Warriors have great interest in Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III, both versatile two-way wings who would fit perfectly in Golden State's system. In return, the Pelicans would get Kuminga, who could thrive on a team where Zion Williamson can't stay healthy and they desperately need consistent scoring. That's a situation where Kuminga could actually unlock his potential. But here's the reality check. NBC Sports reported that over the summer, it was the Kings and the Suns showing the most interest. But things look way different for both of those teams now, and their interest level may not be the same. So the trade market might be smaller than people think. Kuminga's value has taken a hit. Teams are watching what's happening in Golden State, and they're going to try to get him at a discount. Now look, I've been pretty hard on this situation, but let me be fair here. Because as much as Kuminga has his issues, Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors organization deserve some blame too. This is the same Kuminga who last season went from being completely out of the rotation to averaging 20.8 points in 27.4 minutes per game during the playoff series against Minnesota when Curry got hurt. Same guy, same skills, same me-first tendencies if you want to call it that. The difference was opportunity and consistency. When he was needed, he showed up. When he got minutes, he produced. And Kerr admitted after last season that if JK comes back, we will for sure spend the early part of the season playing him with Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph. We didn't have that luxury this year. So even Kerr acknowledged that they never really gave Kuminga a fair shot with the main guys last season. And now, 2 months into this season, we're right back to the same pattern. Hot start, lose the starting job, get buried on the bench. The fundamental problem is what Kurtenbach described. Kuminga wants to be the guy. He wants 25 shots a game. He wants the ball in his hands. He wants to create for himself. But that's not how the Warriors play. Their system is built around selfless ball movement, constant off-ball energy, reading the defense, and making the extra pass. The coaching staff and Kuminga have butted heads for years over his inability to adapt to their way of doing things. Kerr was asked recently about Kuminga's star aspirations aspirations, and he said he's obviously a guy with a lot of ambition, which I love. He wants to be a star. He's got the ability that gives him that hope and gives us that hope. There has to be a consistent level of play in order to achieve that. We're talking about the best basketball league in the world, so the consistency has to be there, and that's fair. The consistency has to be there, but also you drafted this kid 7th overall. You've had him for 4.5 years now. You won a championship with him on the roster as a rookie, and you still can't figure out how to use him? At some point, that's on the organization too. Maybe Kuminga just doesn't fit what Golden State is trying to do. Maybe the system that created Curry, Clay, and Draymond isn't built for a player like him. And if that's the case, then do the right thing. Trade him somewhere that will appreciate him. Let him go be the guy on a team that wants to build around young talent. Stop treating him like a problem to be fixed and just accept that it's not a match. Because right now you got a $23 million player who can't crack the rotation, who your own veterans are calling out, who your own coach is benching as punishment, who your front office designed a contract specifically so they could trade him. That's not sustainable. That's not winning basketball. That's just drama that's distracting from everything else. So here's where we're at, guys. This marriage is over. It's been over for a while if we're being honest. The contract Kuminga signed in September wasn't a commitment. It was a placeholder until both sides could figure out the exit strategy. Kuminga is averaging 12.4 points and 6.3 rebounds this season in what has been a complete roller coaster. His shooting has fallen off of a cliff since returning from injury. The veterans don't trust him. The coach doesn't trust him. His agent is publicly questioning the organization on social media. And meanwhile, somewhere in Orlando, Franz Wagner is counting his $224 million and thanking the basketball gods every single day that he went 8th overall instead of 7th in that 2021 draft. The Magic believed in him. They gave him a role. They let him cook. And now he's one of the best young players in the entire league. Same draft class, 2 picks apart, completely different outcomes. For Kuminga, a trade might actually be the best thing that ever happened to him. Get him out of Golden State. Get him to a team that wants to build around young talent instead of chasing one more ring with aging veterans. Let him go to Sacramento or Indiana or New Orleans and prove that he's worth that max contract that he's been dreaming about since day one. And for the Warriors, get something back while you still can. Because right now, Kuminga's value is dropping by the game. Every DNP, every public call out, every "what are we doing out here" tweet from his agent, that's making teams think twice about what they're willing to give up. Move him now. Get Sabonis, get Mathurin, get Herb Jones, get something. Because the current situation isn't working for anybody. January 15th, that's 5 weeks away. That's when Kuminga becomes trade eligible. And based on everything we've seen, I'd be shocked if he's still wearing a Warriors jersey on February 6th. So what do you guys think about this in the comment section down below? Do you think this is the end of Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors? Because I can tell you something for sure. This is certainly the end of Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know if you've heard, but the trade rumors surrounding Giannis have been getting insane. I made a separate video on it. I'm going to leave it in the end screen. I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.